Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Carpenters Hall. My name's Michael Norris. I am the Executive Director of the Carpenters Company. We're so honored to host this press event for Amerca250PA and its many, many partners from the Commonwealth and around the nation who are working so hard to create a memorable semi-quincentennial experience for Philadelphia, for Pennsylvania, and really for the whole nation. The Carpenters Company was founded in 1724 as a guild for Philadelphia's master builders. Our early members built most of 18th century Philadelphia, including Independence Hall itself, Pennsylvania Hospital, the steeple of Christ Church, and many, many others. In the early 1770s, they built Carpenters Hall as their meeting place. It was finished just in time to host the first Continental Congress, where delegates including George Washington, John Adams, and Patrick Henry met to create a colonial coalition and define a unified response to their grievances against England. That sense of unity led esteemed historian David McCullough to call Carpenters Hall the acorn of American democracy. And as I like to say, it's the place where United in United States was born. The Carpenters Company has evolved over the centuries, and today we are a nonprofit association of Philadelphia's leading architects, builders, and engineers. The company still owns Carpenters Hall, and we operate it in partnership with the National Park Service. The hall is free and open to the public and receives over 100,000 visitors annually. The first Continental Congress was held here exactly 250 years ago in September and October of 1774. Since those deliberations led directly to the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776, our commemorations of the First Continental Congress are serving as the opening act for all the wonderful events and programs that Philadelphia's Historic District will provide in 2026. Earlier this summer, we convened the Young People's Continental Congress, which brought high school students and their teachers from the 13 original colonies to Philadelphia for a week-long immersion in the history of our nation's founding and the democratic values that fueled it. We're offering that program again next summer to students and teachers from all over the country. The online application for the 2025 Young People's Continental Congress is open until November 1st, so I encourage you to help us spread the word and talk to me after this if you'd like more information. Finally, after this press event at 3:15 inside the hall, we will have a performance in our Building Independence program, which is presenting live scenes of events and moments from the First Continental Congress 3 times a day, every weekend between now and the end of October. Today's performance is called Letters Home, and it's based on the actual letters that delegates John Adams and John Rutledge of South Carolina wrote to their wives during the Congress. So again, welcome to Carpenters Hall. Thanks for having me, and it's now my pleasure to introduce Patrick Burns, who is the CEO of Metro Philly Management and the chair of Amerca250PA. Pat?
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for the introduction and for reminding us for this incredible history embedded on this site. It is truly awe-inspiring to be standing here at Carpenters Hall, where the earliest seeds of American independence were planted. The very place where it gave rise to the conversations that set our country on its path towards freedom. As we gather today, we aren't just reflecting on history of milestones that brought us here. We're also looking ahead. This weekend marks a key moment where we're towards America's 250th anniversary and where we're going. Today, together we are laying the foundation for this celebration that will honor every chapter in our nation's story. And I'm truly honored to work alongside such dedicated and passionate partners in this effort. The National Convening highlights the tremendous work Amerca250PA is doing to create and celebrate the meaningfulness for all Pennsylvanians. Our team consists of tireless advocates dedicated to sharing an inclusive narrative that represents every Pennsylvanian, no matter the county, no matter the walk of life, I'm also fortunate to be chair of this organization, to be part of an important journey. Now it is my privilege to introduce the incredible Cassandra Coleman, the Executive Director of Amerca250PA. Thank you, Cassandra.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to lift this up a little bit. There we go. And thank you, Chairman Burns. And here at Carpenters Hall, we stand on the very steps that help shape our American identity. These steps represent the path our forefathers took to establish the ideals upon which our country was built. Earlier this year, I had the privilege of addressing the Young People's Continental Congress as we recognize Carpenters Hall's 250th anniversary celebration. I reminded them that they were sitting where history was made. But rather than focusing solely on the past, I urged them to see themselves as history makers, the architects of our future. Their actions, their thoughts, and their ideals today will be remembered 250 years from now. As Executive Director of Amerca250PA, I have the honor of celebrating the past 250 years of our American story, rooted here in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But more importantly, it is my responsibility to ensure that these stories are passed on for future generations. Stories matter. They help us make sense of the world, yet many stories are lost to time. Amerca250PA works to preserve and amplify the histories of Pennsylvanians and Americans, ensuring that these legacies endure for the next 250 years. The stories we highlight, such as that of the Dennis Farm, purchased in 1793 by free African Americans, are windows into our nation's soul. Similarly, the stories of our Pennsylvania service members, honored in our service member spotlights, remind us that sacrifices made by these heroes ensure the continued progress to our future. America's collective memory is shaped by the stories we choose to share. To truly celebrate and honor Pennsylvania, we must include the voices of all counties, all towns, and all people. And here at this national convening, we have a unique opportunity to spread ideas, share our stories, and inspire others across the nation to do the same. This convening is historic. We have representatives from 30 states, 43 Pennsylvania counties, and over 250 in-state partners, all with a shared goal: to reflect on our nation's history and again ensure its lasting legacy for future generations. This is not just a celebration of the past, but a collaboration for the future. We gather here today not as individuals or isolated communities, but as a united voice committed to preserving the stories that have shaped our nation. Each state, each county, and partner brings with them unique histories, perspectives, and ideas that, when combined, form the mosaic that is America's heritage. The diversity of our stories is our strength, and this convening allows us to weave those stories into the broader narrative of who we are as a nation. As we reflect on the last 250 years, we must ask ourselves, what stories will we pass on? What legacies will we leave for the next 250 years? It is these moments, through the conversations, the ideas and the connections we make here this weekend, that we define the future of our American narrative. Whether we're amplifying the voices of those who have been underrepresented, preserving our historic landmarks, or honoring the sacrifices of those who have fought for our freedoms, each of us has a role to play in ensuring that America's story is preserved and shared to benefit all. I would like to thank the Amerca250PA team for their tireless commitment to sharing Pennsylvania's story, and I'd like to thank everyone in attendance both here and this weekend for demonstrating your devotion not only to celebrating our history, but to building a legacy that will inspire Americans for the next 250 years. It is now my honor and my privilege to introduce you to Rosie Rios, the chair of Amerca250, who is leading the charge at the national level. Thank you for being here with us today, Rosie.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. It absolutely is a pleasure to be here. Cassandra and her team have been great partners in our effort. We always welcome the opportunity to come back to Philadelphia. In fact, we held our commission meeting here in July as part of the Young People's Continental Congress. Always look forward to coming back and continuing to invest in that as well. We had a chance to work closely with Cassandra and her team on our special convening for the state commissions and the federal agencies and partners earlier this summer. And we will continue to come back to Philadelphia to make sure that everyone knows that this is where it all began. So thank you so much for this invitation. As the chair of Amerca250, which is the congressional commission charged with planning the nation's 250th anniversary in 2026 of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, I can't tell you what a privilege it is to be here. I have great memories of the bicentennial in 1976. I still have my bicentennial quarter. For an 11-year-old girl, 25 cents was my life savings, but I still carry it with me everywhere I go. And for me, it's not about my memories, it's about what I can inspire for my children. I want my kids to feel what I felt on that beautiful but cloudy night on July 4th. Those fireworks were never brighter. And so for those of you who are familiar with our work, we've made some very significant strides and announcements that I'd like to share with you today. Earlier this summer, we announced that Presidents and First Ladies Obama and Bush have agreed to be our honorary national co-chairs. At a time when our nation needs that all-partisan, bipartisan, nonpartisan effort, they stand ready to make sure that we all can take this journey, perhaps a journey that we as a country have never taken before, but we're going to take it together. In addition, we also announced a series of programming efforts. So hopefully you've all heard of some of our recent programming. We launched the pilot of America's Field Trip. America's Field Trip, which was launched this last March through May, is a national student competition where grades 3 through 12 can answer the question, what does America mean to you? In fact, we had 146 submissions from the state of Pennsylvania, very exciting, and also we had 6 first place award recipients. Those 6th place awardees got to choose from a series of backstage experiences, most of which had never been offered to the public before. Thanks to the National Park Service, Frank Barrows, I see you here. Thanks to the Smithsonian, the National Archives, the Library of Congress, who are also part of our commission. And I'm thrilled to announce that we just launched the full school year program this last Monday. In fact, Independence National Historic Park is one of the field trips that these kids can choose to participate in. So we're thrilled again to make that happen all over. We also launched on July 4th, Our American Story. You can go to our website, Amerca250.org, and nominate whose story you think should be preserved in perpetuity at the Library of Congress. That one-year effort between July 4th of this year to next July 4th will inform us of where we're going to go around the country. We're going to visit all 56 states and territories, tribal nations, rural America, farmlands, faith-based communities, areas where they don't have internet access, where they don't know how to make a video. We are going to take this journey with them to unbury the buried treasure that we know is out there. And finally, we launched on 9/11 America Gives, a national service initiative focusing on 3 pillars: charitable contributions, volunteering, and public service, including military service. We're going to do the full-scale launch in January on MLK Day, using the 2 federally recognized days of service to make giving back a year-round effort. So MLK in January, who can name the 2nd federally recognized day of service? 9/11. 9/11 is the 2nd federally recognized day of service, and then of course on to the holidays where people usually think about giving back. But again, we want to make it the values on which our country was founded, and of course highlighting military service is a big part of those values. So I've seen firsthand how our programming is driving planning for all of our state commissions. In fact, we were thrilled to have the Maryland 250 Commission present at our commission meeting on Thursday, where they also took their 9 award submissions and were able to spend the day with them at the State Fair and recognize them. It was really nice to hear. And so again, our goal is to make this sea to shining sea. We say from Guam to Alaska, from Fairbanks to Philadelphia, and everything in between, as truly a grassroots effort. So I'm thrilled to work, of course, with Pennsylvania, with Philadelphia, with our stakeholders, and we will always, 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 our goal is to come back here for our July 4th commission meetings, because we need to go where history happened, and we know it happened here. So thank you so much. It is my pleasure now to introduce to you the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Massachusetts, Kim Driscoll, who I had the pleasure of working with when we first invested in the Boston Tea Party launch last December, and then again at our state convening, and then again here today. So it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosie, and thanks for the work you're doing. You're putting your whole heart and soul into making sure our entire country, all of our state delegations are unified as we think about celebrating America's 250. Cassandra, thanks to the PA 250 team bringing us here, upping the bar per usual, and ensuring that we're all thinking about what makes our states, our history, our community so special. It's great to be here. Philadelphia looks great, and always a pleasure to be in your company. Earlier this week, Governor Healy and I launched our Massachusetts 250 campaign. Now, we had our Boston Tea Party. You know, it all happened a little bit earlier in Massachusetts, and we had an opportunity to celebrate that, but we wanted to have our official launch. Paul Revere was there, you'll be glad to know, charging up Beacon Hill, letting us know the regulars are coming, the regulars are coming. It gave us a real chance to celebrate what we honestly believe is the birthplace of America. There's lots of competition for that in this space right now, but we know that Pennsylvania, Virginia, Delaware, so many of us have a rich history tied to the founding of our country. We are the ones who threw the tea in the harbor, the ones who fired the first shot in the Revolution, the ones who put their biggest signature on the Declaration of Independence. Thank you, John Hancock. And Massachusetts really is home to so many firsts. We have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to history. First public school, first public library, first public park. We believe we're where the revolution began, and frankly, where it continues today. We're proud to be the state that's voted #1 for education, for healthcare, for innovation, best place to have a baby, best place for women to live, super high quality of life, and a place that knows its history and is always not shy about touting those series of historic firsts. We're tremendously proud of the part we've played in shaping this nation, but I think even more immensely proud of the strides we've taken marking today to really shape that future. If you think about it, these were ordinary people in all of our communities who stood up. Farmers, masons, cabinet makers. They were the individuals who thought there's a better way forward. Throwing that tea in the harbor was a way of saying we think we can have a more just future. So these series of firsts weren't accidents. They were intentional acts of individuals who thought about fairness and justice and the ability to self-govern and lead a better way. It was that level of activism that we'll be celebrating as we think about the milestone of our 250th, not just in Massachusetts, but everywhere. These individuals were inventive and resistant and brave. These are the qualities that we want to celebrate when we think about 2026, deeply rooted in our culture. And all of that is what makes us have great pride in the places that we live. And so we're having some fun today talking about where is the birthplace of America. But truly, it's not a competition. It's a collective celebration of what makes America special. And how lucky are all of us that we're able to live in a place that can come together to celebrate that. That's why we're looking ahead with excitement to America's 250. That anniversary is going to lead to lots of celebrations, commitment to making sure we're thinking about not only the last 250 years, but all the things we can do in the future to make sure we're continuing to lead in a way that can bring joy to our families, have us looking forward in a way with fairness and justice in mind. So great to be here in Pennsylvania, marching forward to 2026 with lots of good thoughts and intentions to celebrate our unique histories and our unifying histories. And with that, I'm proud to invite up to the podium the Secretary of State from our neighboring community of Rhode Island, Greg Amore.
Good afternoon. It's very true that our neighbors are much more diplomatic than we in Rhode Island, who a year and a half before the Tea Party burned the HMS Gaspee and shot its captain. in what we like to call the spark that ignited the American Revolution. Bear with me for a brief story. When you look at the bottom right-hand corner of the Declaration of Independence, our two signatories are there. One is very clear, William Ellery. You can read it absolutely clearly. The other is a little more difficult to read. That's of Stephen Hopkins, who was also here at the First Continental Congress. Hopkins was suffering for what we now believe is Parkinson's disease, and so his hand shook as he signed the Declaration. And he said, "My hand trembles, but my heart does not." And we are very proud of that story in Rhode Island and many stories in Rhode Island, but because we're so small, sometimes we are overlooked. And so I encourage the other 37 states, the territories, the tribal nations, to tell their stories that may have been overlooked. We share this incredible democratic foundation. We share the same principles that are displayed in the founding documents. We each have revolutionary stories to tell, and Amerca250 and Rhode Island 250 and Amerca250 Pennsylvania, and thank you. What a wonderful program you have put. You and your team, Cassandra, have done a great job. This is a collective effort that I believe will work in unifying our nation, because we do share so much. So it's my pleasure to be here, and it's my pleasure to introduce Tim DeFoor, the Auditor General of the state of Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Greg. Rhode Island may be small, but it's mighty. Yeah. So it's an honor to welcome you all to Philadelphia and to Pennsylvania. Amerca250PA has been working since 2018 to lay the groundwork that commemorates our nation's semi-quincentennial. We celebrate our history and our future, a legacy I am proud to be part of. As the first African American elected to a statewide office in Pennsylvania, it is vital to me to ensure that we celebrate what happened here in Philadelphia in 1776, while commemorating the role Pennsylvania has played in our nation's history. Through this initiative, we have been able to recognize and celebrate the impact minority communities has helped to shape our union. We've been able to celebrate the accomplishments of people like Prince Perkins, who I spoke of earlier, a free black man who in 1793 moved his family from Connecticut and founded the Dennis Farm in northeastern Pennsylvania. He moved to Pennsylvania for one reason. He wanted to be a landowner. Prince Perkins knew the key to true independence and freedom was to own land. And being a landowner back then, when it was not easy for a black man. In fact, it really wasn't easy for anybody. In 1793, our nation was still new. The American Revolution had ended 10 years earlier. George Washington had laid the cornerstone of the U.S. Capitol, and the U.S. Mint had just circulated its very first coin. It was during that time when the story of Prince Perkins and his granddaughter, Angela Perkins Dennis, and their family homestead began. But Prince Perkins wasn't just a landowner. He used his farm to raise more than crops and He used his farm to do more than raise livestock and grow crops. Prince Perkins was an abolitionist. His farm served as a station for the Underground Railroad. And he did this knowing that the Fugitive Slave Act was signed into law the same year he and his family settled there. And if caught helping escape slaves, he would have been either killed or enslaved himself. If you go to the farm, overlooking a hilltop is the Perkins Dennis Cemetery, which is family cemetery. It's the final resting place for many of the Perkins descendants and black veterans of the American Revolution, War of 1812, and the Civil War. It is also believed to be the final resting place of the escaped slaves who died on their long journey to freedom. There's a lot of history at the Dennis Farm. It is indeed a special place. And for that reason, in June of 2023, the Amerca250PA Commission awarded our first semi-quincentennial bell to the Dennis Farm. The bell is awarded to a place that has significant meaning and impact to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And if he were alive today, I'm not sure if Prince Perkins would ever envision an event, multi-state event like this ever happening. Or that his farm would be a rich part of Pennsylvania's history. That's why it's up to others to keep his legacy alive and tell the story of the Dennis Farm. People like Prince Perkins' ancestors and Dennis Farm descendants, like Denise Dennis, Lonnie Moore, and Darrell Gore. They each had to tell the Dennis Farm story. The land where the Dennis Farm resides is hallowed ground, and we can all learn to be proud of the history that it holds. And I recognize the history that I made due to the sacrifice of Prince Perkins and others. So to Prince Perkins and others, I owe an enormous debt. A debt that can only repay by living my life in a way that honors them. And that's what Amerca250PA is about. Honoring our history and those that came before us. And when we honor our history, when we learn about our history and other people's history, it really helps us to understand ourselves. And as the ex officio member of Amerca250PA, I can tell you that that's what this weekend is about. It's about discovering our history. So this weekend, let's discover, or in many cases, let's rediscover our history, learn about others' history as well, and take it back to the communities where we live and where we serve. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Now I'd like to introduce somebody who's very much involved with everything that is going on with Amerca250PA. That is Governor Mark Schweiker. Governor?
Thank you, Tim. And for the virtues of Dennis Farm and all that you've just shared, big hand for our Auditor General, Tim DeFoor. We're going to wrap up. As you know, it's always sunny in Philadelphia. You got to give me that, right? It's a gorgeous day. It's a gorgeous Friday. I don't know about you. We see the smiles and we saw the good intentions and really the emphasis on just remarkable, compelling American values throughout the entire day and last night. So the idea was to make it memorable. And not only that, a couple of acknowledgments first. I want to acknowledge first General Coleman, Cass Coleman, Executive Director. And I say that fondly. As we all know, quite a visionary and a capacity builder in the highest form as we look at the impact and really the magnetic power, convening power of Amerca250PA, and of course Chairman Pat Burns. Another hand for our Chair and Executive Director. Second acknowledgement, only going to take a second, and then one final thought as we reminisce and kind of consider the prospect, the likelihood that General Washington literally walked that street thinking, what am I going to tell the colonist? At that point, Pennsylvania had 275,000 residents or so, now home to 13 million people. And perhaps in your jurisdictions, you're beginning to contemplate what will be your message about how in attractive ways we make sure that all Americans realize that our emphasis on inclusion is not an afterthought, it is a central thought. But an acknowledgement is this, for those dedicated to the notion of service. Behind me, proud members of the Pennsylvania National Guard, the Color Guard, who did a super job this morning. A big hand for their effort and their presence today. More than that, each and every one of them's probably spent, Dennis, if I have it right, over a year and a half in the Sinai on an important peacekeeping effort, campaign, mission, whatever you want to call it, representing you and the idea that we want to find and encourage the behaviors associated with free people. And they, as members of the Guard, traveled great distance to see to it that what you value here and the American spirit is shared in a place like the Sinai. So thank you, gentlemen, for your effort. Finally, back to General Washington. I couldn't help, as I looked at your faces today, really the intention to learn was there. You could see it, just the focus. Exactly what Cass envisioned when we started talking about this. And I take no credit. Cass, Coleman, and Pat were the ones that said, we've got real momentum. Let's help capacity building occur in other jurisdictions, Madam Chair. And a super job at that. So impressed. And then on this really comfortable Friday afternoon as we gather as free people, and knowing that these monumental reminders are around us of what consent of the governed means and rule of law. And perhaps I should say, as there was reference made to the important calming effect that Amerca250 across the country will have in 2026. I don't think I have to remind really civic-minded people that we've got a pretty rough election that's underway. Not about talk. We're not doing predictions. We know it's going to be razor thin, probably in Pennsylvania, as far as who is the victor. But here is the magic and the honor, really the high expectations of your respective efforts. We've got to go back to our communities, go back to our states, and say, hold on, we've got Amerca250PA coming. If anything, it is a spectacular program dedicated to the idea that as free people, we comfortably, persuasively, sincerely talk about what it is that distinguishes us as a people. We are free. The democracy is for all. We don't need to use very difficult language in very calm, measured ways. We talk about what's brought us to this point, and to hear out people, and to accent tolerance. I mean, after all, William Penn, probably, I don't know what party he'd be in this day and age. He came because he believed in religious tolerance, and landed in Chester and came north on the Delaware and decided this is where we will place ourselves. In fact, I'm a Bucks County guy, which is north a little bit, and where their summer home was, and talked about really the accommodating nature, why it's so important for society, whatever it might be, that we're comfortable with tolerance, with the religious tolerance, and comport ourselves that way. Americans are expected to be comfortable with that. So in my mind, General Washington was motivated by that as he walked these streets. What was he going to say to the Continental Congress? He would say, we can do this. You can do this. That's why we're gathered and convened so early in the process. The messaging is incredibly important. It's open to all. Open to all. We believe the accent on local programming is key as well. But that messaging, he stood in front of that Continental Congress and said, I need a little bit of help. I need some resources. So you're going to engage your own legislatures and other commercial and civic relationships to provide you that kind of funding. The messaging at this point, incredibly important. But I happen to think that when you talk about these unique values that Tim kind of touched on for a second, or if you go by the Constitution Center tonight at 10 o'clock, or early in the morning, you will see people from around the world, and they're looking at the statements engraved in the concrete walls and the slogans, and they are just motivated and focused on, that is so true. Their faces are saying, it's so true. You can offer the same. You can repeat the same to your neighbors, to your leaders. That's what sets us apart. It's innately attractive and compelling. It is uniquely American, and it's open to all. Hopefully you'll consider those aspects to your messaging. Hopefully we gave you a little bit of foundational work on what we think is working here in Pennsylvania. And with that, we march along, and that special July 4th of 2026, where we say to all those who served, ongoing soldiers, and very much alive, we thank you for your service. We thank you for your vision. All the best. And we are done.